Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, which is Specialist Lending, Obstacles to Opportunities. Today's session will run close to an hour. We'll spend about 45 minutes or so on the content. We've got some very exciting panelists today that will be able to talk to you about all topics to do with specialist lending and finding alternative solutions for your clients. I'll introduce our guests in just a couple of moments, but for those of you that are joining us for the very first time today, we do record these sessions. If you would like a recording, please let us know at the end via email or in the Q&A section, and I'll get one out to you. And today's session is also eligible for 1 CPD point, and I'll make that available to you via email as well after this session. So joining us today is Dien Lee. Many of you may be familiar with Dien. He is the Business Development Manager here at My Local Aggregation. Also joining us is Pasquale from Pepper and Gabby from Choice Debt Solutions. And the topic today, as we mentioned earlier, will cover all things to do with those alternate solutions, and Pasquale is going to be talking about that more in depth. And for those clients that don't meet the requirements of mainstream lenders, we'll also be discussing strategies to get clients out of challenges they may have with debt that they are not able to refinance or able to service, and how that debt negotiation can take place. So with that, I would like to introduce you to Dien. So Dien, thank you very much. Here you all are. We
Hello.
Can see you all. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I should mention, I'll be here in the background. You can't hear me, but you may hear me during the presentation. I'd encourage you to ask any questions as we go in the Q&A section. I'll be picking them up and I'll put those to the panel as we go, and any questions at the end, we'll have time to do that as well. So thanks very much, Dien. Over to you.
No worries. So today's session, I'll be doing a bit of a Q&A style, so that's I suppose to hope it doesn't get a little bit boring. You'll probably see me bobbing up and down a little bit because I am shorter than these two fine people here. So bear with me, because in real life I am actually pretty short. So specialist lending, it is a massive, I suppose, what we call topic in this day and age, because credit scoring is leaving people vulnerable. What would you say about that?
Yeah, certainly. That's one key factor that's seeing a lot of business head our way at the moment, the credit reporting system. Definitely.
I think what we found is that some brokers find it a little bit troublesome, or potentially even maybe time consuming, or maybe they don't understand. But what I feel, and this is my past experience as an ex-BDM for one of our mortgage managers, is that we found anecdotally that the clients who are assisted through specialist lending are a bit more stickier.
Certainly. Certainly when you're able to turn a situation where you have a decline, or they have received a decline due to a circumstance, whether it be the credit score, whether it be a default or a judgment or a listing, we're able to certainly turn that around into a positive outcome for your client, and they do become clients for life. Because you have said yes where everyone else has said no, and they do remain stickier for you because they trust your word. And you know, their moment in time is that unfortunate situation, but their moment in time will improve over time. So to say that they're different to an everyday client is, I believe, is incorrect, because you know, unfortunately they've gone through a situation, and we're here to help them get through that. And when you are seen to get them through that situation, you can also then look to back to the prime ones at the same time as well. And they'll turn to you first.
Okay, I keep on saying that, you know, as a broker, your job is almost like a GP, where the client will disclose to you more information than they would their own brother or their own parents and so forth. And just the fact that they're in a more vulnerable stage right now, where they do need specialist lending, it just makes it all the more better, doesn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah. And I would probably hesitate to say as well, or not hesitate, sorry, it's the wrong word, but clients who you put through to a specialist lender, they tend to promote you guys a bit more. as well.
100%.
Yeah. Whereas I don't think clients who get the cheapest rate, they'll either go, hey, guess what, Bob down the street here got me a real cheap rate, because that cheap rate may not last, and so forth. But you guys will continue to do what you do.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, definitely. And no one puts their hand up, unfortunately, and brags at the barbecues to say they're in trouble or they're in strife. They're the ones that sort of sit a bit sheepish and quiet in the corner when everyone's talking about rates or mortgages, for example. But when they do go through a good experience and being able to turn their life around in some situations, or even save their home in extreme circumstance, they'll certainly provide your card to or your details.
So you're getting the advocate. You're getting the advocate who basically are almost attuned to their own situation, and if they come across on us in the same situation, they'll flick it, either your details or the broker's detail to their colleagues.
Correct.
Yeah?
Correct.
Fantastic. So
more as a trusted advisor.
Yeah. So, and that's, I guess, that's what broking is all about, isn't it? So rather than just stopping at a normal loan, and we go to specialists.
Yeah, hopefully the days of rate are going, and it's more about what solution can I provide you.
Yeah.
So solution-based selling would be vital in everyone's asking.
Excellent. So I guess I probably want to swing back around to where Pepper and the other specialist lenders sit. I think most people understand with regards to where the clients will sit is they only know that it comes down to credit reporting. Some of you guys don't actually realise that the internal bank scoring can actually kill a deal as well. So a good question to ask your clients before you submit it to a particular lender is, have you ever had a loan or credit facility with that bank before? Now, I've worked with big banks before prior to going to third-party banking, such as Commonwealth Bank and NAB. So they have what we call an internal bank score or an internal profitability score. They may change that wording now, but it means the same thing, which is if you had a current facility or a past facility with that bank and you misbehaved, you're not going to get a loan regardless of how clean your credit score is today, or regardless of how much money you make or how much assets you've got. The computer will just say no. So that's where, again, an obvious choice will then become, we'll go to a special lender. You're not going to get that issue.
Correct.
Yeah. But otherwise, the main reasons why you would know to contact a special lender is obviously the external credit score.
Yeah, correct. So we've introduced a Pepper product selector. So all brokers that are currently affiliated with us or accredited with us, you actually have access through your website with Pepper Online. And when you do log in, there's a little drop-down box saying Pepper product selector. What that actually does is a free credit check on your client, and provide
that's a free one without footprints, isn't it?
Yeah, that is correct. Yes, and provide you with the Equifax report. And also the beauty of that is it also provides you with which product Pepper will be able to provide you with. So saving the need to potentially go through that booklet that we provide you with our policy guide, it'll actually give you the answer there and then. It's an indicative offer that we honour as well. So it allows the confusion to go, whether I'm not too sure. I did have something in the past, I'm not too sure. When you're sitting with your client, you're able to quickly log in, put the details in. It takes a couple of minutes, six simple questions, and provide you with an alternative offer for your client there and then on the spot. So credit reporting is something that we're big on, and it enables us to provide a solution based on whether they're low score, red, or yellow score, mid-range, or good, and obviously prime, green scoring as well. So the reason why I refer to those colours is more around the credit scoring that shows at the top of the Equifax file, and also sort of emulates our product specs as well. So I do highly recommend you have a play around with it and trial it on your next client, so that you can actually see how it works and how simple it is and a simple tool, and it'll provide you with their the indicative offer there and then as well. And I think that's where everyone should head. When I say everyone, in respect to brokers, to at least know what you're dealing with. There's nothing worse than applying, thinking everything is great from what your client has told you, and then you receive a decline. So getting an upfront credit check. So I'm so used to saying beta. Upfront credit check, Equifax. At least you know exactly with what you're dealing with, as well, and it'll eliminate some of the conversations about who, where, why, and it's a fantastic tool that we've brought out as well. So I highly recommend it.
And that's free.
And yes, correct.
That's always the best thing when it's free.
For you guys,
right?
yes.
Now, with regards to defaults, right? So you guys, you're pretty much based rates on when the default was listed.
Yeah.
Not whether it's paid out, is it? Or
Yeah, for us, paid
paid
or unpaid doesn't worry us when it comes to the default. So we talk about life event. We were also saying earlier moments in time. Their moment was unfortunately that circumstance that happened. So the way that we look at them is, when did it happen? When did it occur? The more recent, the more, I suppose, not risky, but the more recent is they haven't really had the chance to rehabilitate themselves. The long term is obviously they've been through that situation and have come good, or are better, should I say. So our product design is very similar to that, where we have our Plus product, which is less than 12 months, our Advantage Specialist product, which is greater than 12 months but below 24. And then we have our Pepper Easy, which is plus 24 months. And yes, it is rated according to risk as well.
But do you have to actually, is it a requirement to pay out those defaults which are unpaid?
No, in some circumstances they may have just found out. They may wish to contest. So no, we don't enforce them. Obviously, it's in their best interest to. I need to stress that. But of course, they may want to contest it, or they may wish to leave it there, or they may require that certain LVR that really doesn't allow them to. So we understand that, but it's obviously in the best interest to pay that. But of course, some circumstances don't allow it to.
Yeah, well, it is pretty much that. We're talking about credit, borrowing money, so you'd ideally want to ask your clients that somehow so we can actually pay it out.
Yes.
And what about judgments? Do you guys
treat them the same?
Same thing.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Judgments, court writs, as well as defaults. We all treat them the same.
Yep.
Correct. No difference in who they are. Even from a discharge bankruptcy perspective as well. So we allow for 1 day discharge bankrupts, and we don't penalise them. We just treat them as if they were a new prime or a specialist or an Advantage client, and we don't lift rates or we don't lift their fees or anything like that. We just basically treat them as rehabilitated.
Yep, fantastic. Now, going on from there, of course, is that you guys are, well, Specialist Lenders also known for low doc.
Yes,
yeah,
one of our biggest niches, certainly.
So low doc, as far as I'm understanding, that there's 3 methods to prove your income. So one is obviously with the accountant's declaration.
Yes.
One is with the BAS, and then the other one is the bank statements. Business banking statements.
Yes.
Yeah. So have you had any sort of I suppose feedback in terms of which type is more popular or more successful?
Successful, yeah, that's probably the best way, isn't it? Yeah. No, more so, it's the one thing that we try to emulate when it comes to our old doc, low doc, old doc, same abbreviations, I suppose, is what we want to see is that the customer or the client is actually trading today. So yes, financials are fantastic for the last two financial years. There's some finances that accept 1 year's financials as well. For us, sometimes at least when we attain a self-employed client with either the accountant's declaration or our Pepper accountant's declaration, because we have a template for it, or 6 months worth of BAS or 6 months worth of business transaction statements, we actually know and see that it's trading today and it's making profit or making money, as opposed to your best year's financials that you want to pick and choose from. So we find it a fantastic product where we actually know that they're trading, we know that they're making money. As a preference, the preference is the more information you can attain from your client is best. So if you can attain all 3, happy, and that still fits within our prime parameters as well. If you can only attain one of those 3, you'd say 50-50 split, but it's hard to split 3 with 50-50. But if majority of them you do find an accountant's declaration. But in saying that, sometimes they don't want to go see their account. BAS statements are fantastic. They're like gold. It's once again black and white print, and once again bank statements are just as big a
definitely more
gold.
proof.
Correct. Because you're seeing all the transactions,
money coming out.
Yeah, correct.
So would you obviously ask for both the business banking statement and personal, or are we talking about just I suppose a sole trader may just have one account?
One account normally, that's right. I mean, some do still work off their own personal account when they are sole trading as well. So we can still look at those as well. The majority of them that come through, if they are GST registered, assets seem to be coming through thick and fast. Mainly because, once again, you do see what they're doing, and they're doing the right things by lodging their BAS returns, which is ideal. So we ask for the portals for the last 6 months, which is 2 quarters worth. Ideally, the other thing we do understand also is there could be a downtime in their period of business. You have Christmas, you have leave, you have breaks at the same time as well. If they're declaring, because we always ask for them to self-declare with our self-declaration form, and provide one of those 3 as a minimum options to prove what they're declaring. If they're declaring 100,000, for example, but their BASs for the last 6 months only really equate to $80,000 income, maybe ask for the previous 6 months as well. Get the full 12 months so you see a full snapshot of the calendar year for the business. So from my perspective, I would suggest all 3 is great. There's no preference, but certainly always black and white is always hard to go past, and it's exactly like the old Equifax report. There's black and white. You can't hide it. You can improve it, but you can't hide it as well.
Yeah, obviously, with regards to an account separation is nice too, because then you can actually make a referral connection there.
Yes.
That does also come with some potential problems, I suppose, because the accountant might actually have another broker. So it does have a bit of a pitfall there. But
in saying that, sometimes in our space that works, because the accountants can refer onto a current broker, and the broker says, I can't help you. But if you're going in there with a point of difference, saying, look, I can potentially assist, because it could be a default or a judgment, and that broker unfortunately hasn't been able to sell the alternative to that client. So I highly always recommend, accountants as a great referral source, and even if they do have an existing broker, just ask the question, if they ever decline a deal, let me have a look at it. And of course, you'll always get that response, of course they declined deals. So it's just a matter of being able to provide that. But certainly with the referral space, the accountants seem to be a great referral source for our business. And even from a tax debt perspective, which I know we're about to probably discuss that, another great tool that we provide is we pay our tax debts as well. And the accountants' referral sources, they want to get paid, of course.
And they know which one of their clients is a tax debt.
Correct.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, certainly. And that's the one key when we stated you didn't have to pay at the defaults. We do have to pay the tax debt in full. But it can also be negotiated if there is interest as well, which we'll touch on a bit later as well.
So that's one thing I tend to talk to my brokers about as well, is rather than just knocking on to an accountant's door and go, hey, I want to be a broker with you, rather maybe just knocking on and go, hey, I want to do business with you. Let Bob, who's currently your broker, do everything else. I'll just concentrate on your clients who have a tax debt.
Point of difference.
Yeah, point of difference.
And that's always need a point of difference when you're knocking on someone's door fresh.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Now,
Pascal, we just had a related question to that.
Okay.
When you were talking about bankruptcy, and this question was to do with a company that the customer had liquidated, that they're a director of. So they didn't actually go into personal bankruptcy. The company was liquidated. The question is really 2 prongs. Your view on that in terms of assessing it. And then also the second part is that the rest of their debts were cleared or negotiated, but they're in the position now where they've got minimal credit history for a number of years because they've had no credit cards and so on and so forth.
So in relation to a company that went down to external or internal or external administration, we can assist those clients as well. The key document that we always ask for is known as the deed of company agreement or arrangement, one of the 2. Sorry, I should remember that, but it's a DOCA, so a docker form. That gives all the ins and outs of what was to be paid and if there was anything outstanding. So once we can provide evidence of that there's nothing outstanding, there's no recourse action, then we can certainly still assist that type of client.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so probably the next thing I'd like to discuss with you guys, and you guys do it very well, is that you can do unlimited debt consolidation. I know that with some banks, they minimise the amount that you can actually consolidate. So Bob has 4 credit cards, and that's where he can refinance, but he might actually have a 5th one that he forgot about, or even a personal one on top, and all those repayments actually killing him. So you guys would actually be able to refinance all of them, I believe, yeah?
Yeah. As long as it fits within the LVR, for a debt consolidation, our maximum is 90%, and as long as it fits within that LVR parameter, and also that's for a full doc client, sorry, and also if as long as they service. Yeah. Now, no doubt, being credit cards and personal loans, which are on a higher percentage than what a mortgage would be, we would definitely be saving a lot of money for that client in relation to a monthly instalment. And yeah, we have unlimited debt consolidation when it comes to our specialist products.
Yeah.
And it's a big selling point at the moment. We're seeing a lot of that come through, and we're very excited.
So easy to get a credit card these days, isn't it?
Yeah, or a limited increase. I think I got one in the mail the other day and only had a card for 2 months. So it was interesting. But yeah, so it's going there. It's around, and it's the unfortunate circumstance where some, especially self-employed, is going back a step. Sometimes they live off credit card, and they'll take another and take another and take another. So we see that, and we're able to assist that to reduce that repayment down. And sometimes you're saving thousands, hundreds at a minimum sometimes, but it's definitely a benefit for them to be paying it off. Unfortunately, with credit cards, which will go into yourself very shortly, it's a recurring debt, and you sometimes see it on the statement. If you pay this amount, you'll pay it off by the age of 95. So
not many people actually notice it, but if you are right now, get your credit card out. Credit card statements out at the end of this. Check it out. There is actually a timeline on most of those statements now, and you'll be fairly surprised. Unless, of course, you pay it off every month, and then the banks consider you a bad client actually. You're not making profitable. Yes. But anyway, that is a very nice segue. And so, the next Gabby, I'd like to introduce you to the audience. I think most of you guys right now will have some little bit of understanding about what specialist lenders do, but there is actually opportunities outside of that as well, or in addition to that. I think an addition is more the word, that actually can help you with opportunities in terms of a deal you might have lost or think you might have lost. So, Gabby, do you want to have a quick explanation about what you do?
Yeah, so basically it's debt negotiation. So exactly in that last scenario that you were speaking about, where you might be doing a debt consolidation loan, and if it's not a client that can go up to an LVR of 90%, they might be limited to around about 80 or 85, depending on the product. And they have substantial credit card debt and it doesn't fit within that range, that's where choice debt solutions could come in and potentially reduce the payouts for those credit cards so it fits within that LVR, depending, of course, on the client's circumstances. So if we've got clients that are just habitual spenders, who haven't had a true life event, who are just not very good with their money and are just bad with credit, unfortunately the discounts would be pretty minimal, if anything at all. But generally, working with clients that have had a life event, something fairly significant, such as failed business, divorce, medical issues, mental health issues, things like that, is where the banks will consider those circumstances and discount a little higher, and we can all make that fit in that consolidation.
And most of this is life events, isn't it?
It is, mate. Well, that's what I specialise in. I've had my business for almost 12 years now, and I did do a lot of everything, but I've scaled it back down to really just those life events. The banks are becoming very difficult to deal with, and reasonably so for people that are just habitual spenders. So I do specialise in people that have had a life event. Yes.
So just to explain to your audience as well, I'll explain it in layman's terms. Basically, a customer has a $10,000 credit card with a bank, for example. They can't pay that $10,000 credit card. They go into collections and so forth. And then what happens is that the bank will sell that $10,000 credit card to a collection agency. But they won't sell it for 10. They will sell it for something ridiculous like, I don't know, 3 or 4, or $2,000. But the collection agency then will be chasing the customer for the full 10 plus interest on top. Okay. Now, if you talk about someone that's been through a life event, potentially, say something like medical issues, and most likely it's not them, it's actually probably their loved ones.
Yes.
Having a collector call you every day non-stop, that can drive some people to suicide, right? So where debt negotiation comes into play and is very helpful is the fact that rather than Gab would go to the banks and rather say, hey, instead of selling it off for $3,000, why don't we negotiate it on behalf of the client? At the same time as we're doing the refinance for the client. And then what that does is instead of paying the full 10, you pay something potentially like a 6 or a 7 maybe. But what that does there is actually it does a couple of things. One, the client does not get a default on their file.
That's correct.
Yeah. So effectively, you've got a clean client. Yeah. 2, the broker will win.
Yes.
Yourself will win, and then you can't beat that.
Well, the savings that you're achieving on those debts as well are significant. So if you've got $100,000 worth of credit card debt and you reduce that down to say 60,000, that's 40,000 that's not being paid off. It's being written off by the banks based on the client's circumstances. The 60,000 is being refinanced at 4 or 5%. Let's just say, the life event is in the past. The clients are going to keep their noses clean, as I say, and move forward and get this behind them. And it's amazing. You've saved them a bucket load of money. You've done something for them that no other broker can do. And in 2 years' time or 18 months' time, they can refinance back into a mainstream loan. Yeah.
So it's fantastic.
It is.
But I think, isn't it the caveat there is that they need to have a property?
Well, when you're dealing with a refinance, obviously that's what I specialise in. But what the negotiations that I do require is someone who's in financial difficulty, but someone who has access to funds. And most people who are in financial difficulty don't have access to funds, and that's why I've tapped into the mortgage industry, because they'll use the equity in their home. I do a lot of clients these days, unfortunately, who are well past that situation and do have to sell their properties. The advantage there is that usually they would end up with a surplus debt after the property's been sold, the first mortgage is paid out, and some credit cards are settled. Whereas with my negotiations, they could potentially walk away from everything. They may not have anything left over, but they certainly won't have any surplus debt. And then there's family and friends that quite often help. So if there's a potential to reduce a debt from 50 down to 20, sometimes mum or dad or a cousin might be able to help out. There's all sorts of different circumstances. But yes, the catch is that you do need access to that lump sum of money.
Yeah. And and obviously the cool thing is that by also reducing the actual debt on a credit card, you could potentially bring down the serviceability, or get the clients to be able to service that.
Absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
you actually helped me with one of my deals,
Yeah.
which was $110,000 in credit card debt across, I think it was like 8 credit cards. So which was pretty cool, and we did that with Libby. Sorry, not sorry.
Room for everybody? But
But
I'm out. No.
but really, at the end of the day, it's like your services, real-life services, won't obviously work with the mainstream lenders or the second tiers.
Right.
You would only work with specialist lending. Yeah.
But there's a footnote on that as well. I know, especially because I do a lot of work with Pepper. There are some instances where we might have a limit of an LVR of 80%, and even with my negotiations, we're slightly over. But quite often there will be a client that can service with 1 or 2 debts left in, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pass, there are circumstances where Pepper will allow that.
Yes.
So the client's still in a position where we can get rid of most of the debt and leave them with, say, 1 or 2 cards that they can service.
Yeah.
And potentially with me involved, I could negotiate with the lender for that to be interest-free. So there's another bonus, correct? Yeah.
Well, I think in the days, keeping a default off someone's file, you're saving them money anyway.
That's right.
About that actually realising it.
Yeah.
And obviously you'll have a client for life.
Yeah.
Because it's not like every day. Well, especially in my case, where you save my client, it's like 60,000. Quite a bit. Yeah. So it's not every day that you can actually wipe out 60 grand in debt just overnight. So I think that's pretty cool there. So if anything, on today's session, I hope you guys, take note of what debt negotiation does and can help you with your business as well. Because you can think back now, probably most of you who are watching now have probably lost a client or a file or a deal down in the past somewhere because simply the client couldn't afford it because he's had that X amount of credit card debt or personal loan debt and just didn't service the loan. Yeah. So apart from that, I think, do we have any questions, Steph, at the moment? Or I think that might be that.
I did have a question for Gabby, just came through, and this was in regards to fees.
Yes.
Is it generally based on a percentage or a flat?
It's based on a percentage of the savings achieved. Every client and every situation is very different. Without selling myself short, I can't even remember the last time I charged a full fee. There are lots of instances where a client could be close to losing a home, or the deal might not fit and we're out by $1,000 or $2,000. I quite often will take a little bit of a haircut. Sometimes if the broker charges a fee, they might as well. We'll do everything we can to try and make that fit. But to answer your question, yes, my fees are based on the savings achieved, and if there's a percentage, correct. Yeah.
Well, that's a win anyway, isn't it? So it's based on the amount that you save your client.
Yes.
So instead of paying the full amount, you're paying something.
Yes. Yeah. Look, the client's never going to be worse off. They're always going to be much better off.
Yeah, they will be.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And again, they're going to be more sticky. They're going to be more of an advocate for you,
That's
and
right.
and again, have referral sources.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to ever see any of my clients
Okay.
again,
Yeah.
but they do refer me
True.
to others, to family and friends. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
Mm.
So that's it.
That's all the questions we've got so far. So just in regards to any of the brokers listening that wanted to connect with Gabby and Pasquale, we'll make sure that we send an email. If they don't already have your details, we'll send that to everyone.
Yes, sir.
And your details too, Dien.
Yes. No problem.
We did have one comment which is really lovely, and I think this was evident as all of you were speaking, that, talking about the life events, that a broker commented how good it is to see that compassionate and human side of lending, to be able to start solving those issues for customers, and it's not just about the best rate loan, but it's in some instances sort of turning their life around.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Well, I think
that
that's
was a
what
great
true
comment.
broking's all about, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be able to find a solution for your client rather than finding what the cheapest rate is, because everybody has a mobile phone now. I could click on and find who's got the cheapest rate in 2 seconds, and I could click on 5 different lenders. Whereas to save someone 60 grand off a total credit card debt of 110, for example, you don't come across that often at all.
And Pepper are very good in that. My personal experience is that they do look at the individual scenario. There was a file I did with Pepper a few years ago now where we had a client with over $300,000 in credit card debt, which is very big. But Pepper did the deal along with my negotiations, and that was life-changing for these clients. They were a husband and wife, and she had cancer for many, many years. And it really was the difference between them being able to move on or being lumped with this debt for the rest of their life, which is cancerous in itself. It's just, and it's, I still get emails from that client yearly saying, what a difference it made between the two organisations. Yeah.
That's the fundamental difference between someone who's chasing rates, let's call it,
That's right.
for example, or someone who actually is in need.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a distinguished difference between they're human.
They are.
They are human, and there's no right in saying that you can get a loan and you can't get a loan, and that's what we try to believe, that there is a home for everybody, and let's understand warts and all what the story is, and work with what we have, and to turn that negative into a positive.
Yeah.
So we firmly believe that, and we'll continue to do so as well.
Yeah. Absolutely, and there's clients have so many different stories, and some things are totally unavoidable, and with some of those life events, if it wasn't for services such as yours, there'd just be no recovery.
That's right. Yeah.
So, it's something that could just ruin people's lives long term. So,
And we talk about that. The long-term objectives, their moment is today.
mhm.
The long-term objectives is they want to get back into normality, virtually, or some form of normality because they're going through a hard situation. So, we talk a lot about the circle of acceptance and our specialist lending modules. It's on our website. So once again, have a play around with our better business modules. You get points as well. But, the long-term objectives for the client, we don't want you to be seen as that one-hand transaction broker. You say, thank you for the deal, see you later. In a client in our space, you're actually helping them now and paving the future so that in 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24, depending on their circumstances, you're able to keep in contact, keep in touch, and improve their situation again. So that's exactly what we believe in as well, because we're here to help. That's one thing.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming in today into our
Thank you.
South Melbourne office.
Hopefully we have the most hits or likes, whatever it's called. Like.
Well, we will.
My kids know, but I don't.
And audience, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me directly or give me a call. My number hasn't changed in the last 10 years, so give me a call, hit me up. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Dien. Thank you, Pascal and
Thank you.
Gabby.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.